This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. Welcome to the newest, the latest, and greatest episode of Cartoons of Our Youth. It is episode 2. I've made it to 2. I'm still pretty far from syndication, but I'm on my way. Just closely behind Traders of the Lost Arks. That show it has a slight lead on me, and I'm going to catch up to it one of these days. And why did I bring up Traders of the Lost Arks? Because my guest tonight on this episode is one of my co-hosts, or my compadres on that, and its alter ego Pop Goes to the Couch/Basement, somebody that is a frequent collaborator, co-host of mine, guest of mine, somebody I really enjoy doing pods with, live watches on Stream Lounge, all that stuff, and just somebody who's really great to talk to, Mr. Tim Capel. Tim, welcome to the show.
Andy Atherton, thank you for having me. And thank you as well for the soft plug right out of the gate for Traders, podcast I love doing as a huge, huge comics fan and consumer. Yeah, I mean, at the pace that show comes out, as much as we do all love doing it, I think that this podcast may lap that one in short order, but that's okay, because this is a great podcast to do. I loved your premiere on G.I. Joe. While not entirely of my generation, like, I had enough familiarity with it that I was able to follow along and really enjoyed the commentary by you and Sean Kidd, also of Traders of the Lost Ark. A good synergy there too. Good co-branding between that second episode we did of the Comics Pod and the debut of this here Cartoons of Our Youth. Because similar subject matter overlapping there. So may not be the case this time, but I have to tell you, for the show that we're going to be talking about, to be covered this early on in the great, I'm sure, to be lineage of this podcast has me very excited, because this feels like one that, you'd get to it eventually, but it wouldn't be a top priority. And I'll tell you, at first, when you asked me to be a guest on this show, I was leaning more towards something else, something maybe a little bit more obvious. But I said, no, I'm gonna pick something unconventional, but that is very, very dear to me and to a lot of people. Kind of a cult favorite, but we'll get into it.
That's kind of the spirit of the show too. It's all about the guest. I've watched so many cartoons. Cartoons and animation are like one of my go-tos. It's comfort food for me, and I see beyond that. It's it's for little kids, whatever, blah blah blah. I see beyond that. Because I love all aspects of. I don't know if I've told this on a pod, but I've thought about going back to school. I don't know if I'll ever will, and getting a master's in film. Like film history, though, and so I could teach. And I would want to teach college classes, unlike just like the Hollywood blockbuster, because obviously I love blockbusters, because I have a whole podcast, 2 podcasts actually about blockbusters. But also one I would do on animation. It's more specifically Disney animation, but tackle it from all the aspects: the color, the shading, the music. I love, one thing I do love, and talking about an upcoming episode, a past episode and an upcoming episode of the Pop Goes the Classic series on the Disney animated films. We did Fantasia way back early on. I think Chad might have still been on the show. That's how early it was. But we have Fantasia 2000 coming up, not that far away. It's only a couple episodes off. And those movies taught me about how music and sound can really affect animation. And if you close your eyes when you're listening to a song that's associated with a Disney movie, I always like to use one jump ahead from Aladdin. If you just close your eyes and just listen to the instruments and everything and how that tells the story, that is what I love about like that's one aspect of animation I love. And I think of like whenever I hear a classic song, classical music, I always try to like picture something in my head, some kind of animation if there's never been anything animated to this. So that's why one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because it's such a love, and there's a lot of core memories associated with some shows. I have shows that I watched as a kid. There are shows that I watched in college, and now I have memories of, shows and movies that I watched with my kids when they were little. I mean, if somebody want to come on here and say, hey, let's watch Stanley, that Disney Channel show, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm down for Stanley. I love that. That was Jessica's time. PB&J Otter. You've never heard of any of these, Tim, but for me,
right.
that
but I know they're somebody's favorite.
Handy Manny. I'm like, oh wow, that hits me in some emotional chords there, and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, things like that. So for me, because of my age and my familial situation, I span a lot, but this has eluded me, and it's something that I've always like kind of glanced at, but never really decided to dive into. So I'm blind on this. Like I know some of this stuff, but when we do the live watch of the 2 episodes, I'm going in blind, and unfortunately I don't get the audio to hear, because I looked at the voice cast and I'm like, wow, this is outstanding.
Oh yeah, that's one way we're sort of you are at a disadvantage by not hearing the just brilliant voice cast of this series, which the series is Gargoyles. You know that from the description of this episode, by the way. But yes, officially we're going to be talking Gargoyles from the mid-90s, syndicated show, but it was a Disney production. So speaking of Disney, this was sort of towards the end, I guess, of the dominance of the Disney afternoon block of cartoons, and this kind of came along, I mean, to me, out of nowhere, and like I said, just aired in syndication, aired at a time when Disney's biggest rival for Saturday afternoon cartoons was probably like Fox Kids. And oddly enough, this aired on my local Fox affiliate. I don't know if that's the case for most people, but it was on like after all the Fox programming. So I think this started at like 4:30 or maybe even as late as 5 for me every weekday afternoon. And I didn't get into it until I think probably the second season had started airing. So it premiered in 1994. Apparently, I mean, this is new information to me. October 24th, 1994. I wasn't watching it at the time. I was vaguely aware of it. I kind of thought it was like, I had a misconception about it, and I think a lot of people did, and that's maybe why it didn't catch on. And it didn't catch fire to the extent that I think it should have. A lot of people just weren't sure what to make of this. It's like, gargoyle characters? What? It's not based on any existing property? Like, what is this? So I didn't start, and I just started watching it incidentally. Like one afternoon, I was a latchkey kid, home from school. We're talking like middle school years for me. And I would watch that Fox Kids weekday afternoon lineup, which then I want to say included X-Men. That had been on for enough seasons. They started airing it weekday afternoons. So I would watch that. I'd watch like Batman, all the usual suspects. And then this would come on.
Blind spot for me, this time period, because 1994, when this is out, I was 22. So I'm a little bit old. I'm a bit older than you. So
I would have been 12 or 13.
Yeah. So I am, finishing college. Yes, I did watch the Disney afternoon, like Chippendales Rescue Rangers and Gummy Bears and DuckTales.
Funny
and stuff.
You should mention that. We'll probably touch on that a little bit.
So, but for me, that was early college, and that was like I would come back to my room, maybe do a little herbal afternoon stuff
herbal afternoons. Yes,
maybe hit something and then watch it, and just eat a bag of Doritos and live the college life. And that was me. So by this time, though, I
want to do that
entering
now.
my senior year. I was a little more focused. I was bartending. I wasn't home in the afternoons really to watch this stuff. And this whole time period, like Batman, X-Men, all that this is all blind to me. It's all stuff I would love to watch one day. And I think when I get through, pull back the curtain to what I'm watching currently, I try to watch a drama, a comedy, a cartoon, and something like that's a little short. So right now I'm been making my way through Clone Wars for a while, and then I have Rebels, and then Bad Batch. So once I get all caught up with that, then I think I'm gonna go look to do like X-Men or Batman or something, or maybe even Gargoyles. I'll do. And looking at the poster here on the IMDb page, what I'm thinking maybe happened, and I'm not sure, is because of them working on Hunchback of Notre Dame around this time period. Maybe that was the inspiration for this, because they really enjoyed that part of it. I know, Victor, Hugo, and Laverne were fairly cartoonish when they were, I guess, alive in that movie, but it's very similar. At least
it's funny.
The landscape and in the buildings and stuff are very similar. These are it's like you took this and you threw X-Men into a blender, and this is what you got.
A little bit, yeah. I've never heard that, but now that you mention it, I do start to wonder, because that was not. I mean, when was that movie? 95, 96?
That was 95. No, 95, yeah, or 96. I should know this because we just did a pod on it long ago.
Well, Gargoyles did come. I wonder which one was like under development first. I'm not sure of that.
So Hunchback was June 21st, 1996.
96. Okay, so Gargoyles
was in
would have
production
been on for a while. But like the movie would have been in production, for a while. I don't know. Maybe there was one kind of influenced the other. From what I understand, this whole thing started with Disney CEO Michael Eisner wanting another animated series that was similar to the types of things his kids really liked, which, oddly enough, you just named it, Gummy Bears. And a lot of people are thinking, what in the world does Gargoyles have, it's easy for me to say, have in common with Gummy Bears? Like, doesn't seem like there'd be a lot of shared DNA there, but just in terms of the story structure, granted, yes, Gummy Bears is a very different type of show, but the way that the stories are told, it was pretty rich, pretty deep, kind of like almost serialized storytelling for a children's audience, which was rather rare at the time, right? People don't realize that about that show.
You had the episode arc, but you also had the overall story arc that moving forward in each episode.
Exactly. So apparently, like, his kids were super into that form of storytelling, which I think Gummy Bears just doesn't get a lot of credit for, because people just don't really remember it if they even saw it in the first place. So it's like, okay, we can do a show like, and he wanted something more action oriented as well to kind of, again, compete with what Fox Kids had, which was, again, more superhero type shows like X-Men and Spider-Man. And Spider-Man definitely would have started by 94. Batman, the animated series, like we said. And so they took a couple passes at it, and they meaning, it seems like the principal creators of this, a guy by the name of Michael Reeves, who wrote most of the first season episodes of this show, and Greg Weisman, who was a then executive for Disney, and he really ended up championing this series and became a creator for. He wrote for the series starting in their second season, and to this day, kind of is still leading the charge and beating the drum for like possible revivals and just other media projects. Like he's written Gargoyles comics even, which is
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah. So, and I think he was Greg Wiseman. I think he was a former English teacher. So that's where a lot of the story sensibilities in this show. There's a lot of like Shakespeare influence to the extent that characters and concepts from Shakespeare, Gargoyles was my introduction to them. Like I had heard of, I'd vaguely hear of these Shakespearean names, and this show might have been the first time I was
Wow.
exposed to them. So yeah, later when we would do like a Shakespeare unit in my English classes, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's what they talked about in Gargoyle. So you'd have a character like Puck, who is straight out of A Midsummer Night's Dream. The Weird Sisters, who are these witch characters. I don't think we're going to see them in the episodes we watch here in a bit, but they're just analogous to like the three witches of Macbeth. Speaking of Macbeth, there is a character called Macbeth who we will see. So just all stuff like that is just sprinkled throughout the show, and it was by design. I mean, Greg Wiseman will tell you, I did that to get kids more interested in literature and reading because I think that's extremely important. We have
as Walt used to say.
Yeah, exactly. We have a real problem with illiteracy in this country, and if this gets kids reading, then so be it. So yeah, so that's how it kind of came along. But to your point, I do wonder about something like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which itself has like gargoyles in it, right?
It does,
I
yeah.
mean,
They're the sidekicks, and
yeah.
they're part of the plot. I mean, they're Quasimodo's only friends for a good
Mm-hmm.
portion of the movie. I mean, I think Eisner was that type of guy. Look, Eisner did so much great. I try to look past his last couple of years of craziness and under his helm, but from
Mm-hmm.
what he did for that company and synergy, that was his big word, synergy.
That was
I mean, the
it was a
growth.
big thing.
He could have been looking at like footage and stuff, said, well, there's something here. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something that Disney has always coveted, and it was always not easy for them, was attraction to boys. Because they leaned in so hard to the princesses and all this other stuff. Yeah, boys do
Right,
like
yeah, the Disney
but
princesses was a big brand thing, and people forget that they also they had a lot of marketing towards boys as much as they did young girls.
yeah, and it was much harder though for that company
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have the superheroes. They didn't have Star Wars. They had an association with George Lucas, but that was based in the parks until they purchased Lucasfilm years later.
Sure, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was hard, and I think Eisner really was that forward thinker and saw maybe he was looking at dailies, maybe he was looking at just the scouting photos, because that one thing they would do is they would go to places. When the team at Pixar, I mean, this is pre being owned by Disney, they went scuba diving. They all took scuba lessons to kind of like be under the water and understand and do all this stuff. So kind of that immersive and be able to bring people into that world. That a lot of times that's what they do with their animation. And I do know that they were over in Paris scouting a lot. And,
Yeah,
and doing stuff. They think they might have had a Paris animation office at the time. I don't know. I'm trying to remember when Disneyland Paris opened, but I know they have offices over there. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there is somewhat of a Gargoyles presence in that park. I don't have to.
And it is funny, yeah, right. And Greg Wiseman talks about how he always had like a fascination with gargoyles as a concept, even as a kid. Just thought they were really neat, like the contrast between these ugly, demonic-looking creatures on these very beautiful, sculpted, almost, works of these cathedrals, right? Churches and Gothic buildings, and just that architecture style. Just it's such a story of contrast, and it always just drew. He was always just drawn to that. So you wonder, like, if that spilled over. He was an executive at the time, and was like, we're doing this movie Hunchback. We're trying to do this new action TV series. And the idea at the time was that maybe this could be the start of a whole block of, or a whole universe of action-oriented cartoons for Disney, because this show was meant to be, as you said, immersive enough and complex enough that it could support various different spin-offs and have its whole, this just wide universe of characters and concepts and storylines that you can pursue. For different reasons, it did not lead to that, but as like an original concept, I'm very supportive of this type of project. Like, I'm so glad that this exists, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there now. I think this will be regarded as a hot take, but I think that the place in pop culture that is occupied by Harry Potter right now, and I only bring it up because it's like kind of in the discourse making rounds again, right? It never really goes away, Harry Potter, but it's sort of come up more and more recently with the wizard game and whatever. It's never particularly been my thing. I'm far from an authority on the subject, but I think the place in pop culture that is occupied by Harry Potter should be occupied by gargoyles. I think
that's a statement.
Yeah, but I think it has a similar kind of appeal. I think it is more, similarly, if not more complex. I think it reaches across demographics in the same way that, boys and girls are into Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. They would be of Gargoyles as well. And it was just maybe, I don't know, maybe it was too ahead of its time. There's different reasons
if it hits
didn't
now,
stick
it would be a
around.
cult hit.
If it hit now, I feel like it could be fucking huge, right? Or if it hit at the same time Harry Potter did, it would have potentially been fucking huge.
Yeah.
And it was just because of just different various shakeups that happened within Disney on the executive side, and like 96, 97, the people who really supported this show and were, really the cheerleaders behind it, found themselves either ousted or left the company, whatever. And it kind of got, it got relegated to a Saturday morning slot on, you might remember Disney's one Saturday morning on ABC.
I remember that.
It was right after they purchased ABC.
Yeah, that was when they were really trying to merge the two and really, get the brands together.
Somewhat disastrous.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of that time period is fondly remembered. And this show ended up being sort of a legacy casualty of that. It was already like, it had its run, like its second season was 52 episodes. Because at that point it had been airing daily in syndication on weekdays. And after it ran its course, they thought, well, that's probably it. But after that, one Saturday morning project started, they said, we need content, right? We need something to fill up the schedule here. How about another 13 episodes of Gargoyles with no one involved who actually made the show a success, basically. It was bad. Most people who are fans of the show kind of disavow those last 13 episodes of the third season. It was rebranded the Goliath Chronicles at that point, and no one likes those episodes. No one does.
Yeah, that doesn't.
They have like maybe one. Yeah, it's like they have one episode that's kind of good, maybe, and the rest is just people do not like it. And so and that was the end of it, sadly. And it had a very unceremonious kind of decline. But shit, if this happened today, I think it really could have taken off, because again, it's an original concept, broad appeal, really intricate storytelling. It's easy to lose yourself in. It has a lot of the same things that people respond to in Harry Potter and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Star Wars even are all over this, and
I mean, you
Shakespeare.
could do a
Hello.
Titans type show, like Titans on HBO Max. They could do like gritty, you know. I would love to be. I wonder, I'm sure they have meetings at Disney where they I don't know what the cadence of them would be, but like going through like, okay, what's our IP? What can we mine? What do we already own that we could we have the rights to, we could do something with, and we could make it big and make some money and do that. I'm hoping Gargoyles gets in that conversation. It's like it would be like one of those things that like somebody's there and they keep like all right, Charlie, all right, yeah, Gargoyles, and we know you want to do and Charlie's just got to keep plugging away, and after a couple of years, maybe he'll wear
They're
people
going to run
down.
out of other things, or enough is going to be like they've had enough projects that have just failed to launch. But you're right. I look at things like X-Men, which is getting that relaunch, right? Supposedly later this year, maybe early next year at this rate. Which, I mean, that was huge. So that's not terribly surprising, but the same people who liked X-Men, people like me, were also watching Gargoyles. Not maybe as many, but it is a little bit surprising to me you haven't at least heard discussions of a revival for this. I think that Greg Weisman, although he's no longer with Disney, has been all for it. So if someone did reach out to him and say, "Hey, you want to be a showrunner for this?" he would absolutely jump at the chance.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's had ideas for this property well beyond the show itself. He's written comics. He's even volunteered different. Hey, here's various spinoffs we thought about doing, and here's a maybe proof of concept where they've even got storyboards and such for that kind of thing. So still all kinds of places you could go with this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just feeling some kind of way right now, especially bitter perhaps towar's Harry Potter.
Well, I mean, this is something that they could really. This could have a great theme. I looked it up. There are gargoyles, but not gargoyles from the show. There are gargoyles like at the Haunted Mansion and Phantom Manor, which is its name, and some of the overseas parks. There's a gargoyle you can take home from one of the places. I know there are gargoyles in the Haunted Mansion video game, but I don't think it's the same. I mean, when you see a gargoyle figure or something, I know I had a Hugo, sort of a plush, but wasn't like plushy all around. It was kind of like a rubber kind of thing. I always have one favorite character from a Disney animated movie, and Hugo was mine. That was the one that Jason Alexander voiced. And this is something that definitely has potential, like in so many different mediums. I mean, you could do this as a show on Disney Plus. It could be animated, or you could do something like set in New York amongst the rooftops. I mean, I don't know budgets, but I don't, this could translate though into the parks. It could translate into a video game. There's so many different ways you can go in this from that initial, if people get hooked on the initial offering that they give, and you could do an area in a theme park dedicated to
it occurs to me. I mean, you could even take some of the sets in prominent places from this show and turn them into like theme park rides or attractions of some sort. Like they've got a castle, they've got like a clock tower, they've got all kinds of just neat settings. But I was just thinking, in terms of multimedia, there's just at the time, they had there was a Marvel had a license to publish a Gargoyles series in the 90s. I don't think I read any of that. I don't really remember it. Must have been pretty short-lived, but it had some legs in multimedia. There was a video game. There were action figures, and now it's occurring to me that there is a line of deluxe, very collector-oriented action figures that have just recently been released over the past year or so. I think NECA Toys.
I think we may have seen something like that in one of our chats. You may have.
Yeah, and they're they're like the real deal, right? Legit, the types of action figures you would have dreamed for when you were a kid. That you just had to settle for these cheap hunks of plastic that they scraped out. Now it's like, oh my god, this is a dream come true. Yeah, so I don't know how well those figures are doing, but the fact that they exist at all seems at least promising, right?
Yeah, definitely could see that. I mean, look, if there are comics and there's a way for certain four gentlemen to read those comics, could be a future topic of an episode of Traders of the Lost Arks. Just putting it out there, since I have the de facto moderator of that pod as my guest on this episode.
Yeah, believe me, the thought has crossed my mind.
And that is a Lost Ark. That's
very much so.
That is the spirit of the show, if there ever was one, right?
It had a run in the 90s under Marvel. There was in the 2000s, I want to say Slave Labor Graphics did some Gargoyles stuff. And they just recently had, as of last year, a relaunch. Is Greg Weisman writing that? I'm not sure. I should know this. Let's see. Yeah. So Dynamite Entertainment is currently publishing a Gargoyle series, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, let's see. Gargoyles Comics. New line of comics. Yeah. It's intended to serve as season 4 of the show. Written by Greg Weisman. So yeah, we're talking this just started in December of 2022, this series. So that's where you can currently find the continuing adventures of the Gargoyles.
So we got through why you picked it. Resonates with you, how much you loved it. Do you have any favorite characters? So I'm like I said, I am blind, so I am in the listener seat of somebody who has never. And I'm just looking at this cast. First of all, outstanding. And looking at the character names, though, I'm like, Keith David voices Goliath. Jeff Bennett voices Brooklyn. Sally Richardson Whitfield, Elisa Maza. But we have Frank Welker. Come on, Optimus Prime, right there. and so many other voices. Bronx with Bill Fagerbach. Dauber from Coach. The voice of Patrick Starr does Broadway. Jonathan Frakes. What?
This show was kind of a mini Star Trek TNG reunion in terms of its voice cast.
Is in there.
I
see Ed Asner as Hudson.
Tom
Wilson. Friggin' Biff Tannen right there. Looks like he did a human, I'm guessing. Matt Bluestone. Mm-hmm. John Rice Davies, Macbeth. Laura San Giacomo, Fox. Clancy Brown, another one. The great character actor, the voice of Mr. Crab on SpongeBob.
Also, Lex Luthor in the 90s Superman animated show. Very cool.
Rocky Carroll, who is on, I think he's on NCIS. I remember him on the show Rock, actually, years ago. Glasses. Jim Cummings, one of my favorite voice actors. You hear him. There's not a Disney animated thing that you have not heard Jim Cummings on. He was Pete, basically, on a lot of things. Yeah, you look at Princess of Frog. He was Ray the Firefly. He's got a kind of a distinct voice to him. He was Ed the Hyena in Lion King. Yeah, Jim Cummings is in so much. He took over a lot of the original voices either retired or passed away, like Sterling Holloway, who was the voice of Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. He took over doing that. So, and Tigger, I believe he did too after Paul Frees, when Paul Frees died. So,
versatile to do Pooh and Tigger.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I would damn you, Tim. I may have to start watching this show.
Dude, you didn't even mention Michael Dorn. Again, TNG veteran.
I'm looking at the
Brent Spiner.
Oh wow.
Yeah. David Warner. Rest in peace. Just an amazing character actor. Has that gorgeous silky voice. I mean, just a great
Sheena
mix
Easton. Oh my God, the singer
Yeah.
Sheena Easton, Banshee. Rachel Ticotin, who I only know her really from Con Air. She was the female officer on the plane.
Okay.
Matt Frewer is Jackal.
Okay, yeah,
Max Headroom, and he was Panic, I believe, in Hercules. Cree Summer from she was from Different World, but she went on to do a lot of cartoon animated voices.
That's right.
Tim Curry. Wow. Peter Scolari. Bosom Buddies himself. Wow.
So it's a great mix of like veteran voice actors and like actual Hollywood, stars.
Robert Culp, Emma Samms, who I had I was a teenage boy, I had a crush on her. Kate Mulgrew, talk about Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Dietrich Bader, another guy voices Batman and stuff now, for crying out loud. Michelle Nichols, oh my God, Uhura, CCH Pounder, Jim Belushi. This is an insane. Roger Rees, good old Robin Colcourt from Cheers right there. Paul Winfield.
Yeah, there's not more Star Trek. Yeah, Paul Winfield. Not a dud in the mix. The only prominent TNG actor I feel like they didn't have was Sir Patrick Stewart, who I want to say they tried to get for Macbeth, but it just, I don't know if they couldn't make it work or if he wasn't right for the part or whatever, but he's like the one notable absence from
LeVar Burton.
They even get LeVar Burton in there for one appearance at least.
Yeah, Roddy McDowell, James Avery, Hector Elizondo, Rob Paulson, another one of my favorite voice actors. He did the voice of some of his more famous voices, Yakko from Animaniacs.
Oh, Animaniacs, yeah.
And Pinky from Pinky and the Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've said to people that me and my best friend Scott are Pinky and the Brain, and unfortunately I am the Pinky.
Which one is? I was going to say, which one are you?
I am the Pinky. He talks like Brain, and I am ridiculous as Pinky. Trust me. So. Andy, we're not going to do that tonight. But come on, Scott, why can't we do that? Literally. So, yeah, this voice cast, I'm hooked on the voice cast. These character voices are great. Names of streets, basically, or towns and stuff. Kind of gives a little intrigue on, okay, is that where they patrol? Is that where they protect? Is that where they were, the buildings that they're on?
This show is set in... primarily set in present day 1994 Manhattan, and in fact the names it's like there are actual real world, it's meant to be set in our world, kind of like Marvel Comics. It's not made up. I mean, there are some invented fictional locations, but it's meant to be a very contemporary kind of, you would recognize the world that this takes place in, and that's the contrast that the Gargoyles provide. And so originally this clan of Gargoyles, who existed in medieval times, dating back to the 10th century in Scotland, they were defenders of this Castle Wyvern. And so they had this very uneasy alliance with the humans who populate the castle, and it's constantly, it's the Middle Ages, right? So it's a castle, it's constantly under siege. In this case, by Vikings, and eventually things come to a head. There's this one Viking raid, and then after the invaders are driven off, the head of the clan decides, well, let's try to cut them off at the pass. We'll get them while they're trying to regroup, put an end to this conflict. Well, they actually get double crossed by one of their own. So already we're getting into a lot of, melodrama and intrigue straight from the jump here. They are betrayed from within by a gargoyle who really has it out for the humans, not without good reason, but that ends up disastrously because essentially she tries to steer her clan in a certain direction, and they kind of zig when they were supposed to zag, and it ends with pretty much the entire clan getting massacred in the day by these Viking raiders because they turn to stone during the day, right?
Okay.
Just like the Vikings you see attached to buildings. That's them during the day, and they essentially hatch from these stone this stone encasement at night. And so while they were vulnerable, they were slaughtered, and the member who betrayed them, who goes on to become Demona, she then has a vendetta against humanity for basically the rest of her existence. And so there's this big question of how she is still alive so many years later. The reason that the surviving, what becomes known as the Manhattan Clan, the reason they're still around, the survivors of this massacre, they were basically cursed by a magician known as the Magus of this castle, who were like, we're done with you guys. You fucked us over. You got our princess killed, which they were wrong about that, but that was what they believed at the time. I'm really going off of some cliff notes here because there's a lot to it. Places a curse on them. It says you are going to be actually encased in stone until such time as this castle rises above the clouds, which is basically in eternity. You're never going to be, this curse will never be lifted because, of course, this castle will never, that's a condition that can never be satisfied, right? Like that will never happen. So it's just sort of a technicality that's attached to this curse, right? This spell that he places on the gargoyles. Well, come to find out, here in the 20th century, there's this this guy by the name of David Xanatos. He's voiced by Jonathan Frakes. You can sort of think, I guess the obvious comparison to make, he's sort of like an Elon Musk sort of figure.
Okay.
But he's more like he's what Elon Musk thinks he is. Xanatos is the real deal. He is aware of this curse and this legend, basically, because he has an interest in all kinds of weird, arcane, occult shit on the side. He's got a lot of weird interests. And he decides, well, with my money, I'm going to take this fucking medieval castle, this Scottish castle, and brick by brick have it transported to Manhattan and reconstructed atop my skyscraper, where it will reach the heavens above the clouds. And sure enough, that breaks the curse. And so these these handful of surviving gargoyles from the 10th century are now alive again in the present day. They had no names or identities really at the time, but in the modern world they adopt names for themselves, because it's like, well, I guess culturally that's something that's a little bit new to us, but we're the last of our kind, as they believe. So we have to regard each other as family now, pretty much. So they kind of as a tribute to their new home, they decide to name themselves after various New York boroughs and notable landmarks, geography, I guess. So you get Goliath, the head of the clan, voiced by just genius Keith David. I mean, he should, God, unreal, that voice talent, and as an actor, holy shit. his mentor, voiced by Ed Asner, is going to be Hudson. He's like an old man, basically. He's sort of the one that is there to impart some old school wisdom. And, everything is about how he's like too old for this shit, basically. So he's like the crotchety one, but he goes through some pretty cool character developments over the course of the series, Hudson. But you've also got the trio. So the trio is Broadway. He's the Patrick Star.
Okay.
I can't think of the guy's name.
Bill Fagerbach.
Yeah, there you go. He's and as the name implies, he's quite large. And it would be easy to just characterize him as the big fat guy of the group, but he's not really. He's like the most gregarious, and he becomes the most curious in terms of this new culture that they've found themselves immersed in. So he kind of becomes the pop culture guy, and yeah, you'll actually see some of that in this episode we're gonna watch. So then you've got Brooklyn, voiced by Jeff Bennett, versatile voice actor. He's sort of the angsty Gen X one. I don't know how else to describe Brooklyn. He's kind of got a lot going on. He ends up being kind of the second to the group after Goliath, because he's young, but he's brash, but he's pretty capable, pretty intelligent, and he's kind of he's hungry for the responsibility, but he also can't totally handle it just yet either. So he has he's maturity issues.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Something you see in a lot. You got so much talent, but you got a 10-cent head, or you just
kind of the Raphael of the group. Okay,
yeah.
So
yeah.
And then you got Brooklyn, not Brooklyn,
Bronx.
Lexington, excuse me.
Oh.
Bronx is the dog. Bronx is a gargoyle dog.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, not to say he isn't he does have an intelligence, but he doesn't speak. He's really, he can't fly either. He doesn't have wings. So while he is part of the clan and he is quite useful, he can't speak. He doesn't. I won't say he's entirely treated as a pet, but he's the least recognizably human of the group, right?
He's also Frank Welker has. I'm looking up. I know he's voiced like pets somewhat in the past.
Yeah, it's Frank Welker in that mode. It's not a speaking voice at all. And Lexington is the brains. He's the tech guy. He's the dude in the chair. He figures things out very quickly. And so that's kind of your core group. They later will end up adding a character called Angela, who turns out to be the daughter of Goliath and Demona. So they had a daughter. Again, they don't really recognize traditional family structures in the way that humans do, at least in the Middle Ages. So while she was their daughter, she was just one of the clan. She wasn't really looked at. She wasn't viewed as more or less special than anyone else in the group, even though, yes, she was the biological offspring of the two leaders.
Okay.
And she ends up, there's like a time travel story, and she ends up coming with them to the modern day and joining the Manhattan clan. So, so they kind of add to the group, and they also discover other clans from different cultures, different countries around the world. Come to find out, they're not the only surviving group of gargoyles after all. And so that makes for some really interesting adventures in the second season, where they just sort of do this world tour. So
so it goes deep. It's not.
It goes very deep.
All right. Are there
very deep.
Are there any favorite storylines that you haven't touched on? That
oh God,
that you can remember, just like the arcs, or like
City of Stone is a great one. It's a 4-parter. It finally reveals. There's a lot of flashbacks throughout this show, right? Like, it's primarily set in the present day, but you get tons of flashbacks to again, the 10th century. So you learn about the origins and the histories of these characters. And that is where it was revealed what the nature of the connection between Demona and a character called Macbeth is. And that's where we find out why Demona is still alive, why she survived all these years. She should have died of old age because she was not cursed with the rest of them. Gargoyles are pretty long lived, but not for centuries and centuries. So she should have died long ago. So the reason why she's still relatively young and still alive is revealed in the course of that four-parter, which is great. They do like a 3-part time travel story that brings back one of their old villains, and it has all these. So people who like the MCU and like, the Infinity Stones, for example, who like these, cool objects of power and fetch questing and putting them together and all this stuff, like that would scratch that itch for people because it's like all these mystical objects that are ultimately collected by this guy who was their like original arch nemesis. His name is the Archmage, and he comes back and in a big way, and it leads to this just big battle in the present day and again medieval times. They get into like King Arthur's court and Avalon and like all this mythology, right? So just it does a ton of world building. I want to say even what the second season goes out on, I believe, was another 3-parter that kind of wraps up this plot with a group of adversaries called the Hunters, who were founded like centuries ago, and it finally just draws a line under the, and they're just their war against their just centuries long war against the Gargoyles, basically because of Demona being such a asshole. That's the reason why they've had it out for them for so long. So yeah, and that's the thing. There's like not really. You look at a show with a huge ensemble cast like this, you would think, well, I'm gonna pick my favorites. I like this one. I don't like that one so much. To me, there's like not a dud in this bunch. I truly, there's something to every character that allows me to get invested in them. There's definitely some I like more than others, but it's really hard for me to play favorites with a show like this. I mean, we haven't even talked about Elisa, who is the human detective who befriends the Gargoyles and has like a semi-relationship with Goliath.
Okay.
Which, yeah. I mean, it doesn't show them screwing or anything, but I mean, it's sort of implied that they would at least like to.
Something's going on, but I guess
something's going on for sure. Yeah. But look, I mean, it's whatever. And she has a partner later on in the show. His name is Matt Bluestone, who's kind of a Fox Mulder, where he's interested in all these conspiracy theories and shit like that, and finds himself getting drawn into the world of the Illuminati, which that becomes a whole thing off to the side as well. So it really does a great job of giving all of these characters a little something. It's not really interested in one-dimensional throwaway, just lame sidekicks, or just just when you underestimate somebody and think you've got a character figured out, they put a real spin on it. I'm even thinking of Xanatos has this assistant named Owen, who is kind of like he seems like he's just the Smithers to David Xanatos' Mr. Burns, but there's a revelation involving that character that absolutely blew my fucking mind and just looking at, I don't know, just the types of fiction I've consumed over the years and the various shock reveals. And we're talking from comics, from primetime dramas, from movies, across all media, right? This is one of those reveals that to this day, I'm like, I never saw it coming, and I can't believe they pulled that off. And I don't want to spoil it because it's much later in the show. It's late. It's like kind of towards the end of their second season, I want to say.
All right.
And when you realize, oh my God, that's what was going on with him. It draws so many things together.
Yeah, there are very few surprises in life, which is why I do try to avoid spoilers on stuff. Like, I'm not one of those who won't watch trailers or anything, but, it just takes away when going in. But when something really just gets you, right?
Yeah.
When you're watching a movie and you're like, I know what's going on. I know who the killer is. I know, like if watching Usual Suspects, if you don't pick up on, Verbal is telling that story based on everything he sees in the office, and you figure out, spoiler for Usual Suspects, sorry, that he's Kaiser Soze. I mean, first time I watched that movie, I didn't figure that out. I kind of put it together about the same time Chaz Palminteri did when he was looking at his coffee mug and all that stuff. But when you genuinely, that's a feeling that you don't get often. It's hard
a very
to replicate.
disorienting feeling.
Yeah,
and
it's like you kind of like have to sit back, like I need a drink or a cigarette or something like that to process this because they got me, and like I never saw that coming, and that's insane when those happen, and if that gets spoiled, it. Like, if you see something like, oh God, really, that would have been fun, because it's generally it releases something in your brain. I think that
it punches some kind of like dopamine or some kind of reward system there, right? That's probably not that far removed from what certain substances may unlock, but
and if you're one of those people that pride yourself on figuring things out, and when they get you kind of sit back like, all right, you got me,
and you have to hand it to them. You have to sit back and hand it to them, right? And it's like especially something that wasn't even necessarily meant to be a mystery. You're not even thinking that the other shoe is about to drop, right? And you're just going, I was so immersed in this. I was so glued to the screen that I kind of lost myself to the story, right? And wasn't even paying attention to the idea that this could even be a revelation coming. Yeah. And that's kind of sort of, that's what it was for me. Being just so locked into where it was going that I wasn't even paying attention to, and maybe the signs were all there. I don't know. I'd probably have to rewatch the entire series to look for the clues and see if it was really there all along. I know it was their intent from the beginning, but I don't know that they dropped any deliberate hints. You know what I mean? So anyway,
there was no song that says it was so and so all along that comes and plays at the end, right?
Correct. Correct.
I mean, the last thing that I could say you got me was the twist at the end of the first season of The Good Place. I don't know if you watched that show.
I love that show.
Yeah.
That
for The Good Place
really was.
I mean, in the first season, it gets revealed they're not in the good place; they're in the bad place.
Good place after all.
I mean. I was like, I think I remember. I think my jaw literally dropped. Like when Kristen Bell, her character Eleanor figures it out, and Michael's like, "Yep, you got us," kind of thing. And I was like, "No shit."
And it made so much more sense too once they sort of. And there was a part of me that I was kind of wondering, like, is this? I don't know. Some of this isn't adding up, right? And then when they dropped out that bombshell on you, you go, "Oh, yep. I get it now. This, I see what they did here. That's why this didn't make sense, right?"
Yeah, I do kind of love when you get those reveals too, like what was happening all along, and it wasn't like they forced it in, not like Nikki and Paolo on Lost. It was like, no, this was, and they do such a good job of storytelling and cohesiveness that they dropped it all in. So yeah, you can't replicate that. That feeling that you get when that does happen to you, and that's why we love these shows and these movies when they can do that, because it's just I don't like when you say like I don't want to spoil it, that
right. And even if I did say it, it's something that wouldn't even mean anything to you right now. But if you did start watching the show, you'd be like, oh, huh, I wish I didn't see that coming, right? Because it's so much more fun to have the big reveal,
Yeah, they're like, and you feel bad. Something, at least I feel bad if I spoil something for somebody. Like I would never tell. Like we have our little group of people here, and somebody is at a theme park and there's a ride, Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. I will never tell anybody that's never been on what happens on that ride, because I enjoyed not knowing and being like, whoa, oh, we're doing this now, okay, kind of thing. And it was like, I don't want to take that away from somebody, and it's not fair. Nobody, I got to do it, so why everybody else should do it? So yeah, just don't spoil shit, people. Like if it's an old, like obviously we spoil A Good Place and Usual Suspects, but those, that's on you. Sorry. I can't stand like the fuckers who like, the moment like, something happens in a show, how a reporter, sends an email out like, oh, that big reveal on this. I'm like,
come on.
Like I had other shit to do tonight. I can't watch this thing till tomorrow. It's like, why am I being punished if I can't watch The Last of Us on Sunday night? Come on, leave me alone.
Exactly.
So let's get into what we're gonna watch. So they're back to back, so we can go straight through both of them. We don't need to take a break.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And I was looking for back to back episodes. I was hoping just to get kind of a representative sample of what you'd find in the show, because there's not like really any 2-parters. There's a lot of 3-parters, and like I said, there's that 4-parter. I mean, the opening of it is a 5-parter.
Wow.
That's how it's like a mini. Well, I guess it'd be a feature length movie if you watched it end to end. So it's hard to like have a like what you did on G.I. Joe, right? As parts 1 and 2. So I just kind of
G.I. Joe was good for that, doing a lot of 2-parters.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of came up in lieu of watching, a 4-parter like City of Stone, which I think would maybe be a bit much for a first viewing. These are 2 standalone episodes. They are back to back. One is, I think, what this show's equivalent of a very special episode might look like.
Okay.
Not that it really did that sort of thing, but it goes some places that you might not expect from a weekday afternoon cartoon. And the second episode is going to introduce a character who I really like, who you don't really learn much about upon introduction, but who you're going to want to see again, and is going to make many, many future appearances.
Okay.
So I think it's a good sampling. It's from the first season. First season, again, is 13 episodes. It's a little bit more, I'd say this first season, a little bit more comedic in tone than the second season, which is 52 episodes, if you can believe it. And that's where it takes more of a serious, not that it doesn't have its lighthearted moments, but that's where it gets like pretty deeply serious and deeply committed to its own world building and mythology. So we're still kind of, I would say, in baby steps mode here with this series. And yeah, these are like I said, it's on Disney Plus. We'll say, what is it? Episodes. What did I say?
Season 1, episode 8, and episode 9.
Yeah, episode 8 called Deadly Force, and episode 9 called Enter Macbeth.
All right, so Deadly Force originally aired on November 18th, 1994, and the log line for IMDb is when Broadway accidentally shoots Elisa, is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. He is grief-stricken while Goliath and police hunt for a gangster they think is the culprit. So I'm intrigued already.
Okay. This doesn't sound like the description of a children's program.
No, it does not. But it's so funny. It has the rating TVV/Y7. So it's TV/Y7. So there's no V, there's no L, there's no this is
you're gonna have
7
all
and up.
that. So.
All right. So we are both queued up on Disney Plus, correct, Tim?
Yep, sure.
All right. So on my count, let's hit play in 3, 2, 1. All right. So we're playing. We got the Gargoyles open animation.
That's right.
Some snarling going on here.
Frank Welker for you.
Snarl. Okay.
So starting in the second season, this opening, they would have the same kind of opening montage here. It would also have a narration from Goliath that kind of explains their origin. It's sort of the elevator pitch for the show that says, here's what happened in, the Middle Ages. Here's why we're, alive in Manhattan today. In very dramatic fashion, as, again, narrated by Keith David.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing this is interesting characters. They're a mix of like superhero and little kid. It's some characters. Like Goliath, you could see is very superhero.
Yeah, very like the archetypical kind of hero. That's his role as the leader of the group. Okay, here's Owen. This is David Xanatos' second. His Smithers again. I kick myself for using a Simpsons reference, but I know that's what many people's cultural currency is.
Okay. We got some smoke bombs here.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like somebody's looking to pilfer something, I guess.
Yeah.
Rob, the poor unsuspecting guy getting thrown out of the truck here. And they got live rounds there? What do they got?
Well, here's the thing. This is like a lot of 90s cartoons where you're not going to see bullets. You're not going to see like realistic guns shooting semi-automatic rounds. You're going to see like the G.I. Joe kind of weapons with lasers and shit like. But the idea is that is truly meant to be advanced technology that only certain characters have access to. In this case, this was a shipment of weapons intended for David Xanatos. Right, and it got hijacked by this gangster basically who is a minor character in the show.
And looks like they're all waking up there.
They are waking up, yes. It's nighttime, so they're hatching out of their stone shells.
I can pretty much kind of tell like who's who though too. Like just like the way their designs there. Like that guy's kind of cartoonish, the one that was just talking, the red one. But like
the red one is Brooklyn, the Raphael type guy. Okay. The yellow one is Lexington, and they are the younger. Yeah. They and Broadway, who just took off, are the younger members of the clan.
Okay, and that's I guess in the Ed Asner character right there too with the beard.
That's the old guy. Yeah, Hudson. Okay.
All right, so. We always have to have humans in this world, in all these ones, though, because you can't have Transformers without humans. You can't have the Ninja Turtles without April.
Yeah, you got to have your point of view characters, which is kind of what Elisa is here. This is Detective Mazza, Lisa Mazza. This is her bureau chief, I believe, and she's thinking already that this shipment was taken by the gangster Dracon.
Okay. And this guy is Owen's guy. He was kind of tough taking the mask off the gangster and then putting it on himself in the earlier scene.
He's kind of a low-key badass. Yeah. Xanatos wouldn't have it in any other. I mean, Xanatos is a badass in his own right, but he's not going to have some wussy dude like backing him up, basically. So looks can be deceiving, which is going to be a huge theme of the Owens character.
Okay.
Again, there's a revelation regarding him much later in the show that I'm not going to step on.
All right, so we got looks like Broadway checking out a movie, grabbing some popcorn here, huh?
Yeah, Broadway with so he's taking an interest in film at this point in the show. And an interest in food. I mean, relatable.
Who doesn't love popcorn? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I eat popcorn almost every day.
Do you really? That seems like not the type of thing you eat every day.
Well, it's when you're on a diet and you don't put anything on it. It's filling and not a lot of calories and points on.
Yeah, kind of like rice cakes, right?
Yeah. So it's just as long as you don't add a lot of stuff or oil or that butter flavoring at the movies, it's a pretty healthy snack actually.
True.
So I can't blame Broadway right there.
So here's Elisa now pretty boldly confronting Dracon over his role in this. Like, she knows he did it. She just has to, get an affidavit and a warrant and all. She's got to do the paperwork, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got them flowing locks too. He just looks like a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Get
a very 90s looking.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's very 90s with the t-shirt and the blazer and all that jazz.
Yeah. Like, he would have been like a character on Melrose Place at the same time, probably.
Very, very Miami Vice also.
Yeah.
So I guess Broadway is watching a Western here.
Right, yep.
What about a duel? It's got a Clint Eastwood type guy here.
Mm-hmm. Showdown.
Yeah.
So, that's as Westerns do, glorify a little bit of gunplay here, and that's the coolest thing in the world to Broadway.
Well, yeah, because they were all like asleep and cursed during that time, so you'd have
exactly. They missed a lot.
Yeah.
They're the weapons of their day are swords and spears and shit like that.
And now they make it a point of her putting her gun there, so maybe that comes into play. Mm-hmm. She's got a kitty cat there.
Yeah. Huh. She talks to, as you should do.
I talk to my pets all the time. Come on. Well, if they talk back, that's when I get worried.
That's when it's a problem. Yeah.
Uh-oh. So it looks like Broadway thinks he's a gunslinger now, apparently.
Oh, yeah. The gargoyles, by the way, they have these wings. They can't fly as such. The show makes the point of stressing, look at her apartment. That's amazing.
On a detective salary, too.
Yeah, right. But it makes the point of stressing that they glide. They don't really fly. Which it's kind of like, what's the difference? I guess the difference is they can't really just flap their wings and take off from a stationary position.
Yeah, like hang gliders.
They're not like birds.
Yeah. Oh, geez, he gets the gun out.
Playing with the loaded gun. What are we doing? Uh-oh.
That's why you don't leave your guns around for children. Well, although, why would she put her safety on or put it in a gun safe, right? Not thinking that this giant-ass gargoyle is going to come in and play with it.
Oh, shit.
Meanwhile, she's cooking food on the stove. There's a lot of problems here. This is, and he's holding the gun.
Not paying attention. Yeah.
Do gargoyles have fingerprints?
They're probably not recognizably human if they do, but
and it's not in the database.
So he's doing the right thing now. He's getting her out of there as quick as possible.
Just throwing her on a gurney, basically.
I want to say that this episode was like censored after its first. I don't remember seeing the blood on his hands in reruns of this. Though. I mean, it's the type of thing they wouldn't even probably replay this in certain markets. I remember it being somewhat controversial. Now, again, a character just got shot with a live round. So,
but if they're down on the ground though, if they can't fly, right? How do they get back up to the building? They have to climb.
You do see them climbing from time to time. I mean, a lot of times they kind of launch themselves from building to building, kind of Spider-Man style. So, and they can glide on air currents, so they can still ascend. They just can't. They can't just be on the ground and again just jump and flap their wings and fly that way. It doesn't work that way. They've got to have some height. They've got to, again, catch the air currents, whatever. I mean, it's very pseudoscience-y, but for some reason, the show doesn't want the gargoyles to be able to just fly. Is, I guess, the point of it.
And Broadway, the dog kind of looks like the dogs from Ghostbusters.
Bronx, yeah.
Bronx. Sorry, Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a terror dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zool terror dog.
So we get the as most comics and whatever tell you, when you're doing an arms deal, you go into the forest. I mean, that's what happened in the Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's where you test it out because, you
got to test, yeah.
Forget those forests. If we shoot Bambi, who cares, right?
Exactly.
We got to test out our weapons here.
They're being more responsible in their gun safety practices than Elisa.
Yeah. Well, again, she didn't think this like big, huge ass gargoyle was going to come and start playing with her sidearm there.
Mm-hmm.
And they just waltz into his office.
Yep.
Now, this is weird. I mean, are there gargoyles? I imagine are statues, and those are pretty damn heavy. They're not foregoing the weight capacity on the elevators and what have you. I mean, now this is kind of ridiculous talk of me, but still.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine they're going to weigh a lot, but maybe they took the freight elevator.
Maybe in their awake form they don't weigh as much.
I don't think they weigh as much in their living awake form as they do as solid statues. And they are solid throughout as statues because we've seen them get shattered. It's not like they are flesh and blood underneath the stone or anything.
Yeah, she got hit pretty hard. She
got it pretty good.
The lung and the spine, 10 hours of surgery. So yeah, she's critical right now.
I mean, we're getting into like pretty deep medical details here. And this is her family. This is her brother, who himself is going to be. I mean, they're all kind of recurring characters on the show, but the brother is going to show up probably the most often behind her. Some weird stuff happens with him.
Okay.
In fact, the first episode I watched of this series that kind of got me hooked on it was an episode focused on him.
Okay.
And his name escapes me at the moment, but anyway.
So they're leading to believe that it was Draco, right?
Yeah. So they know she was shot with her own gun, and they know that she was investigating Dracon. So put two and two together, they're thinking he did it.
Yeah. All right.
So mistaken identity. I mean, the guy's a dirtbag, but he had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, he's got to do a lot of other stuff, but still. And you got Goliath at her bedside. So, Yeah, and Dracon's
to avenge her, basically. Which
and then his eyes light up. That is
when they get angry, their eyes turn white.
Like a shark. Seems like the eyes.
Except for Demona. For some reason, Demona's eyes turn red when she gets pissed. I don't know if we're going to see her in either of these
the mark of a bad guy. Like the Sith have red lightsabers and that kind of stuff.
It's a subtle tell. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So something's going on in the park here. It looks like.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that guy's kind of, I don't know, not a guy you'd want to see in the park here.
Yeah,
and what's that thing?
Turn somewhere.
Yeah. He's got something on top of the, I don't know. Oof, that's got to hurt. Oh, Broadway looks pissed. He's not happy-go-lucky eating popcorn at the movies guy anymore.
Right. He's going to take out his aggression on these dudes, even though he blames him. I mean, of course he blames himself. He shot his friend, but Now he's like got it out for guns, right?
It seems like he's very anti-gun now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he should, if he had gone to see another movie, maybe a nice rom-com, that wouldn't have, I guess that might not happen, right?
Right. Clearly, this could have been avoided by putting a gun in the hands of every gargoyle. Sorry.
Touch and go here. Epinephrine. Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, look how this
Somebody
complicated
watches a lot of medical
procedure.
show.
I feel like I'm watching
dramas.
ER now.
I was going to say, this
paddles. I mean,
this is a Venn diagram for you, Tim, right here.
It is. Glad I picked this one. I don't remember all this. Oh man, they had to resuscitate her and everything.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Jeez. Okay, here's the guy driving is Elisa's partner, Matt Bluestone.
Okay. We got Dracon and
the David Duchovny Fox Mulder guy.
Okay.
I was talking about.
All right, and that's the boss there.
Boss, yeah.
You know when the boss hits the streets in these cop shows, shit's got real.
Exactly. Hill Street Blues also an influence on the show because that was like a very serialized cop drama, right? In the 80s.
Yeah, I didn't watch it a lot. My dad watched it when I was younger. I've
always wanted to. Yeah.
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I just remember previously on Hill Street Blues.
That's what this show does, and they say they lifted that directly from Hill Street Blues. It has a previously on. I don't know if it starts this early, but later in the series they do that. X-Men did it too.
All right, so Hill Street Blues. Well, Tim, do you have Hulu?
I sure do.
Well, all 7 seasons are on the Hulu and Prime Video.
Oh, nice. All
so
right.
you have options.
I do.
So when you get done with the 38 seasons of ER,
yes,
then you
watch
can
Hill
watch
Street
Blues.
What was the other big popular cop? Not NYPD Blue. Wise Guy. Was that
Wise Guy was more of a cult hit.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe that's more my speed.
Ken Olin. Yeah, I didn't really watch that, but you had Crimes. I think it was like Crime Story.
Okay.
We aired that on A&E. That was a big deal when we had that re-air rights for that.
I mean, for as much credit as X-Men gets for being one of the early children's shows that did continuing stories from episode to episode, this for a weekday show, this is almost even more ambitious. It's not like every single episode is multi-part, but it's not like there are any just throwaway episodes either.
Now, the
developments that would happen, like this episode will be continually referenced throughout the shows. Like, hey, remember that time you shot Elisa? I mean, it's not going to be forgotten what happens here. So,
and they have no qualms about revealing themselves to these
not really
these gangsters here.
Not really. If a job needs to get done, they're not going to worry about keeping their identities concealed or anything.
Well, I mean, who would believe that?
Yeah, who would believe them anyway?
Yeah, we got attacked by these gargoyles, and they're like, which gargoyles? And then who remembers what gargoyles are in the city, right? Unless you like a gargoyle, stand, exactly. I guess.
Yeah. Can you imagine this massive creature after you?
No.
Because he thinks that you almost killed his girlfriend.
His human girlfriend, no less.
His human girlfriend, yes.
She'll have revenge through me. And then Broadway's got to come clean.
Oh, he just confessed. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very special episode right here. I mean, I would not be shocked if there's a PSA at the end of the show about gun safety. I don't think
they ever did that kind of thing. Because they were careful not to get too corny. Like it was always story first with this show, even if they wanted to send a message. Which there's one where Hudson meets this, makes a new friend. He's this guy who's blind and teaches Hudson to read. because Hudson was, the oldest gargoyle. He didn't take the interest in reading that the rest of them did, and this guy kind of shows him how much how much literacy will enrich his life, kind of thing. And that's one, again, it could be a very corny, it sounds like a corny episode, but it's pretty damn good, actually.
One thing that I just noticed was like how their wings become basically like a cape,
yeah, they fold the wings in front of their bodies like a cape. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's a nice little detail there.
Yeah, they realized early on in the animation that was both a cool visual, and it allowed more characters to be shown on screen because otherwise you got these massive wings that take up so much real estate, right? You can only really you can't show like a big ensemble shot of these guys if their wings are all splayed out.
Same thing with action figures, man. My Hawkman figure takes up so much real estate on the shelf. You got that
fucker in the back, right?
You got to be strategic, and then the ones with capes too.
Mm-hmm.
I got to put Doctor Strange. I got the Marvel Legends. Black Panther. It's got a cape. Moon Knight. All those, they're back row. That's where you're destined. I don't care if you're shorter character. You're destined. Thor. You're in the back row, buddy. Sorry.
Derek, that's his name. Her brother's name is Derek. I'm sorry, it was bothering me. So Lisa's going to be okay.
All right, she pulled through.
Yeah. Can you believe it? They didn't kill off a main character.
Yeah.
What if they did? What if I made you watch as your first episode of the show? They kill off
what the hell?
Main Gargoyle's girlfriend. They just kill her off.
Would you pull a scream and kill it? Would they kill off Drew Barrymore? That was brilliant, by the way. I can. That's fun. That was a swerve. That was pulled off.
She's vowed never to touch a gun again. But look, she's also taking responsibility, also saying I never should have left it out like that.
Yeah, that's kind of, even if you live alone, that's kind of willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting it on your coat rack and hanging it there. Wouldn't you put it in a drawer or something like that?
You would think, yeah. Especially as a cop.
Gun safety had to have been a class at the academy, right?
Yeah. So
she pulls
not
through,
exactly.
And they could just stop anywhere, and wherever they are when it becomes daylight, they're
stuck. Yeah,
they're stuck.
So if they happen to be flying, or gliding, when the sun comes up and they turn to stone, they're gonna hit the ground and shatter.
God, that's like thinking about when people return from the snap, if they're an airplane and all of a sudden they come back. That breaks my brain when I think about that kind of stuff. Oof.
So they have they have to be very conscious of the time of day, when exactly they're going to turn back to, how far can you push it, right?
Yeah,
they got to be thinking about that.
All right, so we've moved on to episode 9 through the magic of playing the next episode and streaming. It's not like Netflix, though. Netflix are dicks when it's no, you got 2 seconds to decide whether you're gonna watch the next episode or it's recommendation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now here they give you 20. Disney Plus is really cool. They give you about 20 seconds to make that decision.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, so we got season 1, episode 9. Enter Macbeth, a mysterious man with considerable experience with gargoyles offers his services to remove the clan from the castle. So,
that's right.
All right, sounds interesting.
Again, doesn't really sound. Here's Demona. We got a previously on Gargoyles. Okay. So this is from probably, like I said, that opening 5-parter. I want to say that was the last time we saw Demona.
All right. I think you're a few seconds ahead of me because I just started.
Oh, am I?
On.
Okay, let me pause it.
All right. I got the car door just got shut, and we got Goliath yelling at or whatever. We got the last episode thing happen.
Do you see Broadway praying over Elisa?
We got the end of the episode right there. All right, now we're starting the new episode.
Okay.
Enter
Excellent.
Macbeth is on screen, so I paused it. You there?
Got it. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
back up. All right, we're back up.
Perfect.
Okay, magic of Tim, it's on the Disney Plus. There is a platform you could do your rewatch on.
I know, and I'm tempted to doing this watch along here. I want to revisit this show. I feel like.
It seems like very cool. Oh, I know, look at that synergy right there. They're watching the Donald Duck cartoon.
Yeah, watching a Disney cartoon. Yep. Yeah, Hudson is not quite as interested in television and pop culture as Broadway, but that's kind of how he fills his time, is watching TV with Bronx.
All right, so this is Lexington and
Brooklyn. Yeah,
Brooklyn.
Lexington and Brooklyn.
All right, playing cards here. Okay.
Okay, that book that they just showed, that's called it's called the Granora Marcanorum. It's a big book of spells, basically.
Their Darkhold.
It's their Darkhold. It's their Darkhold. It's their what's the from Evil Dead?
I've never seen any Evil Dead. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's got all the tricks in it.
Okay.
Xanatos is in prison briefly. They're about to get him out.
And started trading.
Yeah, this was all fallout from the opener, opener 5-parter.
So he's got a ponytail going. That's something. That's a choice.
Right. And again, just keep in mind he's voiced by Jonathan Frakes, so he sounds like Commander Riker.
Yeah. Who my friend Scott I mentioned earlier looks like Commander Riker. And he
does look like Commander Riker. Yeah.
He
went with a ponytail.
Yeah. Doesn't have the ponytail, but yeah. He had when is him for Halloween one year.
Oh, you said your friend looks like.
Yeah, my friend looks like. Yeah, he pulled it off pretty good too.
Wow.
Looks like a prison guard on the little seedy there.
On the take, maybe, right?
On the take, yeah. I was about to say.
So
this is the unknown visitor.
Yes, and so Elisa's still on crutches, so she's see the carryover from the last episode. She's still injured
I guess because maybe the spinal injury she's on the crutches. So
yeah, you got to figure it was near her spine, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe.
And we got Macbeth, who seems to be somewhat cosplaying a little Magneto here.
Yeah. So Macbeth, as presented, is kind of, he's always reminded me of the DC villain Deathstroke, because he's like this old man, but he's a mercenary and has all this cool technology. But Macbeth, as we will learn, perhaps not in this episode, has a bit more of a nobility to him than Deathstroke, who's just a real scumbag.
Yeah. So they just come through, and the stones are just everywhere, and there's a mess, and it's some guy's job. Say, oh shit,
somebody's got to clean that up.
I got to sweep this shit up again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that. He kind of got the Deathstroke thing going here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
So he knows about these gargoyles.
And he can handle Broadway, too.
Yeah, he sure can. And so he's basically now picking a fight with them.
Mm-hmm. And he blinds them and get some night vision goggles here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So for an older fellow, he handles himself quite well, right?
He seems to be the anti-gargoyle here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he knows like their weaknesses and how to get to them, and like he studied them.
I mean, he's beating their asses.
Yeah. I mean, he's subdued basically all of them, and in short order, no less, too.
And it's almost like he has experience at this, right?
Yeah, quite possibly.
I mean, this is somebody's first outing. I don't care how skilled you are, you're not gonna know how to take down a gargoyle, right?
Yeah. Oof! And he even gets Goliath right into the power box there. Yeah, this was kind of a badass character intro that we get here.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm intrigued now. And Goliath looks none too happy.
Trying to pursue him. He's got his own little airship here. Like
he's taking some trophies with him. It looks like. Oof! Oh God! It looks like there's electric handles them pretty good, huh?
Yeah, they've got some. I mean, it's not like they have like a kryptonite or anything, but if you hit them with enough juice, it's gonna fuck them up.
All right, that is impressive too.
Like I think they'd be relatively impervious to like bullets from like.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably machine gun a gargoyle to death, but if you just shot him with a revolver, I don't know if it's going to pierce their hide, right?
That tower was kind of almost Avengers Tower-esque in some of the design.
Yeah, so that's the original castle that's been built on top of the skyscraper that is David Xanatos' headquarters.
Boy, he trying getting those permits must have been a deal, huh?
Right. Brick, like I said, stone by stone, brick by brick, he brought it over.
Just the sheer weight. Like, I would be like, I ain't walking anywhere near that thing, man. That thing could come down. Boom.
He's got his ways.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. So some what's his face? Looks like Hudson was a little upset about something.
Yeah, so he's basically taking umbrage at the fact that they were attacked at their own home like that. And Elisa's kind of making the point, you guys are basically sitting ducks out here. Xanatos knows where you are. He's had it out for you, even from prison. Who's this mysterious winged figure? Huh. And so she's basically making the point that you guys are too vulnerable out here, and you should maybe consider taking up residence somewhere else. Hint, hint. So, this is maybe. I don't know if we're gonna see where they ultimately end up just yet, but
okay.
Yeah, I was wondering exactly at what point in the show's continuity they introduce a new location. So we're not there yet. We might see it in this episode. I'm not sure.
All right, you got the Shakespeare mention, like you talked about earlier.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, sitting dorks right here.
Sitting ducks. So there you go. We can't leave. Yeah, and they're saying, well, there's too much shit here. We can't leave the Granora Marcanorum here.
Ah.
No one's like, no.
Is that the Norse MacGuffin? Is that what that
See, look at Owen handle himself.
Yeah, he took down Hudson, and look at that. Even with a crutch, she's pretty tough, huh?
Mm-hmm. I do think that the animation on this episode is a little bit shakier than the last one.
Yeah.
It's not bad by any means, but some of the body language is kind of off, I think, But, with 52 episodes a season, what do you want?
Yeah. I'm sure they had to crank these
It's
out.
a wonder we're not dealing with stick figures here. Come
on. It looks like these two just are constantly jaw-jacking at each other.
Pretty much. They're probably the closest of the gargoyle. Again, these guys they call each other rookery mates, which means that they're probably brothers biologically again, but the gargoyles don't really care about those types of distinctions.
Okay.
Yeah, the trio are probably all what we would regard as siblings. I mean, they effectively are, whether biologically speaking they are or not. I don't know what Bronx's deal is, to tell you the truth. It is established at some point in the show that they hatch out of eggs.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're not going to see that for a while.
This is like if I tried to explain to somebody the lore of the Hair Bear Bunch cartoon. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I've never even heard of that.
I'll tell you that after the show, and I'm going to blow your mind.
Oh God.
It's a Hanna-Barbera, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I could do a solo pod on the Hair Bear Bunch, so but I won't. Hopefully somebody will pick that, and Lord knows if it's streaming anywhere. But I digress. Oh boy, this has got to make this
terror dog running down the street
again, like right out of Ghostbusters, right there.
Right out of Ghostbusters, yeah.
I got a milk bone. A nice little pooch. Is that the keymaster or the gatekeeper? I'm trying to figure out. And then you got Goliath running down the street right behind him, and I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
Just okay. Honestly, growing up down around in New York, wouldn't blink too much at that though.
Just like, another day in the life.
It's another day in Times Square. Who knows? Something's amiss at the Macbeth residence here.
Yeah, Macbeth Manor here.
Macbeth Manor, yeah.
I'm like biting my tongue trying to not give too much away here, which is
kind of hard.
I'm not saying too much, but it's hard, believe me, to resist.
I don't know. Goliath is coming in there, and this guy handled you pretty good last time.
The glowing white eyes, shit's on now.
To quote the Goonies, we're in deep shit now, Francis.
He said, "I beat the brakes off you in your own house. You think you're going to take me in mine?"
Yeah. There's those aren't just wood doors, I'll tell you.
Mm-mm.
That one,
not like the doors used in GCW that wrestlers get put through. It's hollow core, foam core doors.
One of them, I guess. I think it's Lexington. He's the one that's like red, right?
Brooklyn is red.
Brooklyn is red. Yeah, I don't know. He kind of looks like Jackal Man from Thundercats. I think that's probably what I keep thinking.
Okay.
Like designed like almost like a villain. But
yeah, that's the thing. There are definitely design elements that tip you off that some of these non-human characters are more villainous than others. There's a whole thing about like if the horns are pointed forward, that for some reason looks more menacing. So a lot of the villains in the show, if they have horns, they'll be pointing forward instead of back. So all these little, subtle touches, nuances, if you will.
Yeah. It's like knowing the little thing that Apple, I think, doesn't allow they don't want villains using their products.
To use iPhones. Bad guys can't use iPhones. Yeah. That's so dumb.
Well,
it's the type of thing, now that everyone knows that, it's like, well, it's kind of fucks up.
Unless Apple pays us a crap ton of money, everybody's using Samsungs.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is really messing with them in the Hall of Mirrors here.
So here's the reveal. He said, "I want your queen,"
and he knows about the moment.
Right, and Goliath's like, "The hell are you talking about?"
She did.
And he even just revealed there he named Demona.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Demona already had her name when the show started. She revealed herself to the clan that she was still alive.
Okay.
she didn't pick a name at that time. She was already called Demona, and that's when they all chose names for themselves.
All right, he's got a trap door and everything. Wow.
Yeah, look at this. So basically, Macbeth doesn't really give a fuck about these gargoyles. They're just a means to an end, which is basically he's trying to track down Demona.
Ah, he figures that they would be his best chance to either know where she is or draw her out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ah,
One
okay.
way or another. Yeah, he's trying to get to her.
Hmm.
Now we don't know why, but that's his intent.
Okay.
We will not find out why for quite some episodes.
All right. So we got a sarcophagus getting opened. Turns out it's the
secret
pathway.
passage.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely can some of the animation we got a bit more cartoonish there, so to speak. Even though we're watching a cartoon, it got a little more cartoonish for a moment.
Exactly. Yep.
Why did you just do that to begin with, Bronx?
He is a dog.
Yeah, that's true.
Sort of. A very smart dog, but a dog all the same.
We get to the weapon room here, it looks like.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, he's got a whole sword collection. He's got oh, look at that. He's got a mace club, right?
Mace, yeah, fighting old school now. Place about to go up in smoke, though.
Yeah. Goes the family crest, I guess.
Oh, God.
Can't have that.
Man, this is a lot of, this is a lot of history getting destroyed here.
Oh, he lost part of his sword. He's like, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to shoot
right.
You.
I mean, look at how crafty this old man is.
Yeah, I didn't really like that coat. So, yeah, you can have it. I could run away. Wow, this whole castle, Macbeth lair has gone up.
That sucks.
I mean, I would get out of there before the fire department shows up, right? Oof. And it takes down to this fire. Some shot it was right there.
Completely demolished. So Macbeth gets away. It's clear he's still out there. And he will continue to beguile our heroes for some time. Here's okay, so we are getting the new residents.
Okay. So they're getting away from the evil businessman, I guess.
And Goliath is pissed that they've abandoned the castle.
The castle. Oh, we get the whole home is where your family is.
Home is the six of us, yeah. Goliath's not. No, it's not.
Asgard is not a planet. It's not a place. It's the people. Where ever heard this before?
He is not having it.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care.
I love that he didn't just, we don't do the kumbaya ending here. He's like, fuck you. I'm not done with this yet.
Well, we'll be back. So, all right. So they're establishing a new home. 9 episodes in.
I don't know if we're there just yet, though.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll see it here. Well, let's find out. We got a few minutes left, right?
Okay. This is Goliath glides off the
that's right.
Castle there.
And Xanatos is out.
Okay. With his trusty
castle now.
Yeah. Grimoire is gone. That's the
So they
book.
did take the Book of Spells.
Okay.
The Book of the Damned.
All right. So he doesn't know who Macbeth
The
is.
Necronomicon.
Okay.
If you will. There it is.
There you go.
Ah, yes. So they're in a clock tower now. They're in an old clock tower.
Okay.
This will serve as their headquarters for the overwhelming majority of the show. I did not know that they moved in as of this episode, so I just happened to pick one with pretty big plot development.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot going on here. Kind of guess your mid-season reset of this first season.
Exactly.
They're kind of terrifying when they're frozen too. So.
Right. They always assume some kind of imposing, visual, because it's like that's what a gargoyle is supposed to look like, right? Out in the wild. It shouldn't just be standing there with a weird contemplative look. It should look menacing, right?
A weird contemplative look.
Which happens sometimes. They will turn to stone like in mid conversation sometimes, and it's like if someone came across this on the street, they'd be like, "What a weird fucking looking gargoyle," right? Like, why would someone design it like this?
Well, that was some cool stuff. Thank you for opening my eyes, introducing me to gargoyles. Definitely going to be in the queue.
I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, this is still the first season. You get a flavor of what the show's like, but if you dig that, watch that opening 5-parter and see what you think. It's a show that really rewards you for your interest. So do check it out if you dug this.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, Tim, where can you be found either on the social medias or any shows you have done recently or have upcoming in the next few weeks?
Quite a few, actually. So we talked about Traders of the Lost Arks. That's the comics podcast you can find right here on Place V Nation Pop. So if you're subscribed to this network, you will find the latest episode of that. We'll have another one coming out in the month of March. We've got our recording date. I'll say that we haven't actually done it yet, but we're committed to doing it. So that will be out in the next few weeks. That's a show I just really love doing, so have to promote it. Over on our sister affiliate network, which is Place V Nation Wrestling, I have a pair of podcasts that I do with Jennifer Smith. First is called PTB NXT. That is also with Jacob Williams. So just going chronologically through NXT, we call it the network era of NXT. So we started in 2014. We're now in kind of the spring of 2015. Sort of a timely storyline. I feel like all the interest in Sami Zayn right now, and the bloodline and everything. Well, we are following Sami Zayn's attempt to regain the NXT championship from Kevin Owens, who he lost it to. So that's the arc we're on for PTV NXT. The other wrestling show I do with Jenny, it is also with Greg Phillips, is called Talkin' WCW. There was an episode that just released this past weekend at the time of this recording, and that episode was focused on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So 3 Steamboat matches we covered there on Talkin' WCW. It was a fun one, as they all are. Beyond that, I have a little show called 9021 No-So. So it's a spinoff from the North-South connection. That's me and JT Rosero, and we have a rotating guest each and every episode, going chronologically through Beverly Hills 90210. So we've done one season. We've got the first season behind us. We're in the second season. We're coming up on some big episodes. We've got a big introduction. Emily Valentine is on the show now. Scott Scanlon is still on the show, but we're not sure how much longer that will be the case, let's say. So if you're a Beverly Hills 90210 fan, check out 90210 No So. That's its own podcast. It's not on any other kind of affiliated networks. It's just its own thing. So in your preferred podcatcher app, just search 9021 No So if you are interested. You can find me on social media. I am at Cyke68, CYKE68 on Twitter. And I do tweet occasionally, not that often. So that's where you can find me if you would like to get in touch. I will respond to you. So DM me or otherwise if you want to talk more about Gargoyles or comics or 90210 or wrestling. Got a lot of varied interest, Andy Atherton.
Yeah. We have a very wide breadth of things that we cover here, and that we can talk in depth about. For me, on the PTBN Wrestling Network, I have a show currently that is Who's Next, and it is also NXT centric. But Logan Crawlson and I do each month review the current NXT project.
Present day NXT.
Present day. So they're nice accompaniment pieces to show what it was and what it is now. In my personal watch, I just entered 2013 in my personal rewatch, so because I went back before you guys started. I went to the actual back. Black and Gold start. That's when I went.
That was like right after. So it started as like the weird reality show, sort of Tough Enough version. Like you skipped that, but started when it was a proper development.
When it went from being FCW basically to NXT. That's really what I see that as. So yeah, no, it's funny. It's been a little bit since I've watched that. It's like kind of like people call slow TV background. I put it on while I'm doing stuff, and I look up. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not, you're not watching like with your eyes glued, but it is really cool though to go back and see where these began, and that's why I love doing the current stuff, is because we're seeing people working things out and beginning and honing and changing and developing, and it has been a lot of fun, and doing stuff with Logan is always a good time.
Oh yeah.
So that's a great time. I have a couple other wrestling shows, which, I don't know if and when they could be back. There is talk of a new host taking over the wrestling edition of Making Mount Rushmore. So stay tuned for that. On this very feed, I have lots of shows. Tim mentioned Traders. We do Pop Goes to the Couch. Does pop up when we can, and when we have something we really, really want to talk about, we do make an effort to get together. Pop Goes to Movies could be back with a lot of big movies being released. We have, I'm trying to maybe bring back some Laughing Theaters. Miranda and I are getting back into the Muppet Pod. That is the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational podcast. Our next episode is a live watch of the Muppet Show, which of this recording, this will probably come out after that live watch on Stream Lounge, but that is at 4:00. That will have been at 4:00 on Sunday, February 26th, and that will be dropped as a pod form. And then Miranda and I will be back doing our regular episodes of that podcast, where we do review 4 episodes of The Muppet Show. We will be entering season 2. So very exciting. We have 2 games that we play on every episode. 1, did Miranda hear the person before watching this episode of The Muppet Show? 2, are they alive or dead? So yes.
Not at all morbid.
Not at all morbid. As Tim liked to call it, we used to do the Suckcast.
The Suckcast, the annual Suckcast at the beginning of every year of all the famous old people who die.
Yes, not all old though.
Not all of them old. You're right.
Yeah, but no. Because it's like these shows came out 40-something years ago, so it's leaning hard in one way or the other. But part of it too, it lends into the other game of maybe Miranda didn't hear them because they passed away, before she really was, into some of this stuff. So, And of course, Steve and I have Pop Goes the Classics Disney. We just drop the episode about Mulan. The next one will be Tarzan, which is looking like maybe mid to late March for that episode. And then after that, I believe it's Fantasia 2000. You can catch me on Stream Lounge pretty much every Wednesday. Let's see. Well, some Wednesdays I'm doing Blockbuster Rewatch, where I just finished up with the MCU for the most part. Nate Milton and I will be watching Wakanda Forever on March 1st. Yes,
you're going to be done for a little. Well, you're basically not done, but caught up, right?
I am caught up, yeah, except for the Spider-Mans and the Incredible Hulk. I am all caught up on the MCU. Surprisingly past Journey Through Infinity, which I didn't know was going to happen.
I don't know if that's still...
That is a great podcast. I hope you guys do find the time to get back.
You notice I didn't plug that one.
I know it's not current at the moment, but Nate he's a great guest, and especially getting to watch Black Panther with him, and now per Nate quote, we're going to sink our ocular teeth back into the world of Black Panther with Wakanda Forever, and then awesome. I will be doing after that Batman Returns and possibly Armageddon before jumping into the Skywalker saga, and I have a whole bunch of co-hosts lined up for that. Tim Slumpka, actually, for the first time, will be doing Extreme Lounge with me, and he will be doing A New Hope as we lead off that. And yes, that will be Blockbuster Rewatch for the next several months. And on the other Wednesdays, I'm doing my Pixar Rewatch, where on Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern, I do 3 Pixar shorts by myself because they're short and they're fun, and I usually have Paul in there watching along with me from Stream Lounge. He's a great guy. And then I do the main event at 9:00. As of this recording, my next live watch will be Monsters University, and then after that I can't remember what's next. I know I have Inside Out coming up with Steve Riddle will be joining me. I'm getting into kind of some of my not so favorite parts of the Pixar canon here. So yeah, I got Monster University, then Inside Out, then the movie I hate more than any other Pixar movie is The Good Dinosaur, and that coming up. So if you want to see me,
I've been told that is butt.
It is a terrible movie, derivative, just a hot mess. And if you want to see me get like main roster angry while watching anything animated, you probably will never see me get more agitated than watching this. So if for anything, come check that out or listen later in pod form. What else we got? So check out the Place to Be Facebook group. Join up, be a member. The new tournament is starting very soon. We also have our year stretch project, Greatest Pop Culture TV Comedy. So you have until July 31st to get your 100 greatest TV comedies in your opinion, and we will compile the results. And starting on Labor Day, we will reveal these results on placetobenation.com. Check that website out each and every day. All the pods are featured on there. Plus, we have some really fun articles. And right now, we're in the midst of the GWWE reveal. That is every Friday at noon. Like I said, join the Facebook group. And yeah, just check us all out on social medias. Support all of our friends, whether it's all the shows here on the Pop Experience, on the Place Nation Wrestling Network, on 90210 Noso, which has its own feed. That's something. Show gets its feed. You guys aren't joking around over there, right?
Well, we started on North-South Connection and then just spun right off, huh? That's how we do it sometimes.
That's just the way it is. But speaking of the North-South Connection, make sure you check out that very feed. A great mix of pop culture, wrestling, and sports. Okay, so that was a lot of plugs, a lot of good. And I can't think of a better second episode. If this is how all the episodes that I'm going to do where I have no real experience or knowledge of the cartoon that I'm watching, then I'm going to be a very happy podcaster and loving this pod because this was such a treat for me.
Good.
I may be cursing Tim out, though, for adding another series to my queue, although it's already marked off on TV time as something I want to watch. So I don't know, maybe subliminally I had it.
Just slot it to the head, to top of the list there. Just put it ahead of some other things.
Yeah, it might wait. Just wait until I'm done with the Star Wars cartoons, but it will get watched. I promise you. So, all
well,
right,
look,
cool.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I could geek out over this show that I'll just go out on a limb and say I think is the best continuing animated series of all time.
All right.
I think it's better than X-Men. I think it's better than Batman the Animated Series. As much as I love those shows and would love to talk about those shows on this podcast, one or both or whatever. I think that the gold standard for me is Gargoyles. I just think pound for pound, it's just the best. It's and it
I could definitely see that, and I can't wait to watch it with the sound on. So.
Yeah, right. You can hear all the amazing voice talents, right?
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm sure I'll be messaging Tim as I watch it. Be like, oh my god, you're like, oh my god.
Please, yes.
I know. I remember. God, it was somebody I was talking to, and I was watching something for the first time, and they were jealous of me because they had watched it already.
I will be too. Yeah.
They're like, I wish I could be experiencing this like you are for the first time. They were kind of living vicariously through me.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what series it was, but they were, it might have been Schitt's Creek. I'm not sure. It might have been something, but it was something that I was binging, and it is like really
you'll
cool.
Get to a cliffhanger. You'll get to like a big season finale or whatever, and you don't have to wait 3 months for the the follow up. That's what makes us so jealous, right? Like, I mean, can you believe, like, again, my go-to example, you get Dallas, who shot JR, or Melrose Place, they blow up the fucking complex. Like, gonna have to wait 3 months, 4 months for this follow-up? Are you kidding me? You can't do that to people.
I know. It was insane back then, the dark ages, as we will call them. But, this is, coming out of the gate, a nice 1-2 punch of this podcast. I'm hoping to kind of get this out every, month to 6 weeks or so. So keep an eye out to see who my next guest and what the next cartoon I will be talking about. So I want to say thank you once again to my friend Tim Capel for coming in. So please go get yourself a bowl of cereal, sit down in front of the TV, watch some cartoons, have a good time. Check you out on the next episode. Take care.